emotional abusers seek to control another person by discrediting.
He said I was seriously going crazy. I needed to get help. He said I was forgetting things. My mind was going. He said it was all in my head and I needed to get checked out.
This is the type of case, especially, I encourage you to put the charge out from day one so you establish, okay, are they a licensee, a trespasser, an invitee, and really figure that out. I can't tell you how many attorneys get into litigation and don't know what the classification of their injured party was, which really can make a huge difference in the outcome.
Yeah, one of the things that we do here is we will actually draft our response to the motion for summary judgment that, of course, hasn't been filed because you haven't even filed a lawsuit yet. But if you don't know what their motion for summary judgment is going to be, you are already losing. They do, and they're setting it up in all the early depositions. And even if they've got a real flimsy argument, if you haven't already defeated it, you're going to get to mediation and find out that their adjuster believes that they're going to win that summary judgment. It will delay, if not destroy your case if you're not ready for it. And we do that right out the gate.
Happen at the house, and people get confused about that. And there are times where and I've done a lot of cases where that is the fight. Is it a licensee or an invitee?
Imagine the subtleties in a case where a defendant is faced with the opposing scenarios. The first, being not liable because the landlord did not provide any room services, etc., which would means the tenant owes duty of care to their own guest or subs, but this defense by default acknowledges the creation of a tenancy. Then second scenario is where the rental was not a tenancy but a lodger, which is established by the landlord providing room services, cleanings, sheets, etc. However, this, like the previous scenario, has resulted in a default of duty of care by landlord and the tort of negligence by agreement to provide such maintenance. These are but a few of the issues a defendant should be actively addressing with counsel, who are not themselves aware of the unusual workings and structural arrangements, etc., of non-traditional type rentals. An example being a separate apartment-like suite not share with landlord within a single-family home. I have provided case law examples which seem to contradict what Mark believes is and isn't possible in such structural arrangements in landlord-tenant issues. Clearly, more clarification would be prudent given the fact, as you yourself have stated, everything depends on definitions. I do feel that it is important one should also understand the various different type of damages and the associated rules of each scenario in case it comes down to choosing a path of lesser exposure. Between the two,
No, but it's a crazy mother. He's crazy. No, but it's a crazy mother. He's crazy.
It's so illogical.
You do not remember the distinction of lodger and arrangement.
I know the difference, Henry.
We've mentioned lodgers briefly in previous videos where I've said that a lodger arrangement is where you have a residential license rather than a tenancy. Now, actually in point of fact that's not totally correct. It is possible to have a tenancy in a lodger situation, but it's not normal. The normal situation is somebody has a spare room in their house, they rent this room out to a lodger, the lodger lives in the room, they use other rooms in the house in common with the family, perhaps they share the sitting room, they use the bathroom and the kitchen, and then the landlord will provide services for the lodger, and normally it's just sheets, changing the sheets, giving clean towels. So that will be a residential license, and the occupant will be a lodger. Now, the lodger arrangement will last so long as the landlord is living in the same accommodation, because the essence of a lodger arrangement is that the landlord shares living accommodation. However, if the landlord moves out permanently, at that stage, then the lodgers will acquire a tenancy because the landlord is no longer living in the property with them. So they will automatically acquire a tenancy at that point. Almost certainly it's going to be in a short hold tenancy.
There's a difference between a person who's a lodger and a person who's a tenant, and the difference isn't always as big as you think. So a lodger is typically a person that you're sharing a home with, and you've got some aspect of shared space. So you may be sharing a bathroom, you could be sharing your kitchen with another person, or a combination of all of that. But there's some part of your space that you're sharing which is quite significant generally. It's not just the door or a staircase. A tenant is a person that basically has their own space where they do their cooking. They will have their own bathroom, they will have their own bedroom. It could be, in fact, that you've got a studio space at the top of your house. For instance, you've converted your loft into what is essentially a self-contained space, and that the only shared space is the access to that space. So it could be the front door, staircase, etc. So in essence, that person is no longer a lodger, they're actually a tenant. And the lodging agreement that you have in place with that person really doesn't cover some of the eventualities. Specifically, tenants have a lot more rights than lodgers.
You do not remember the distinction of lodger.
But instead of giving me the respect of asking why I might have taken the card, you chose the negative narrative of me that is your go-to-default perspective for all my behaviors and actions. Crazy, paranoid,
Because they think somebody's watching them.
crazy, paranoid troublemaking. However, I did find that Tyler often exceeded 90 miles per hour driving speed.
Dr. Heisman says video shows signs of narcissism that led to an abusive relationship with Gabby, and it's now on display for the world to see.
A moment where Brian is asked if Gabby is taking any medication, and he actually calls Gabby crazy and laughs it off like a joke before answering. Jokingly call her crazy is gaslighting, and it's flat out dismissiveness of the seriousness of what she was feeling, and it's abusive.
First signs here, nuanced signs, of course, of control. That is that she kind of took on all the blame. He put all the blame on her.
The world's made of two types of people, Shortbread. The people who take it out on themselves, and people who take it out on others.
We often promise ourselves, I'll never be this one. I'll never be this way. I'll never talk like this. And then we feel ashamed about it. And since we don't like to feel ashamed about it, we hide it. And one of the way we hide it is we blame the partner.
You know that face where you know you've done something wrong and someone else sees you and you hate them?
And I can't stand her. Like, all the sacrifices that she's made for me, I see them on her face. It makes me want to slap the shit out of her.
is we blame the partner. You have that sense that they're going to be there anyway. They're just going to take it.
Just stop causing problems. I think just stop causing problems.
I feel like everyone just thinks that I can take it.
The level of disrespect, I mean, you have that sense that they're going to be there anyway. They're just going to take it. So you can just lash out at them and talk to them with a tone and a dismissal that is phenomenal. So that kind of violence. I'm not talking physical violence and all the other big things.
You're talking about aggression or resentment or
all of that. All of that.
Passive aggressiveness, all those things. Yeah.
All of that. And then contempt, I think, is the top one. Yeah. Contempt is the killer of them all. Because in the contempt, there's the degradation of the other. It's that complete, you're nothing.
Is there any one emotion that's more toxic or damaging than others?
Well, I would tell you one thing to be very weary of is contempt. Like if you and I are in an argument about something and you're really angry with me, that's okay. We're still connected. We disagree. We're angry. But contempt is you have been dismissed. And it's really interesting because if you look at the research from the Gottmans, who've studied relationships for 40 years, they have the ability to predict divorce through observations of couples arguing over 90% accuracy. And one of the biggest tells is contempt. So I think in our culture today, we just see the vitriol. We see people just humiliating, shaming each other, name-calling, belittling, putting down. And I really think it's because two things. One, it's a really powerful way to discharge anger and pain and discomfort. So I think one, because it feels good. And number two, you do not know how to hold people accountable.
Abusive people and controlling people all over the world, no matter what their ethnicity, what their education, how rich they are, what their age is, it's exactly the same tactics that they employ. I mean, just going crazy over nothing, blaming everything on you.
And I don't think anyone likes their partner, or nobody likes their partner to make fun of you. You won't like your partner to make fun of you in front of other people, right? Like maybe people are laughing with you, that's one thing, but make them laugh at you or cringe at you, well, that is that is certainly not good for your own self-esteem, for your own self-image, for your mental health, because it always starts with tiny things that, well, they are no big deal. It's just, I just said a small joke. This is regular behavior in narcissistic relationship. When a person is a narcissist and, well, makes fun of the other person.
We've discussed numerous times, and we have to obviously reiterate it.
Well, what we know is a lot of bad abusive relationships reduces your ability to act because the only input they're getting is from each other. And if I'm being told I'm stupid, all that stuff starts to impact how people behave, and it brings down their normal personality.
Yeah, because I'm so stupid.
Disrespecting you, disrespecting your work, making you feel unimportant. That's abuse.
Yeah. The contempt is the killer of them all. Because in the contempt, there's the degradation of the other. It's that complete, you're nothing. You're nothing. I can kill you with that one gaze, that one eyebrow that goes up, who do you think you are? What are? And that's it. You're done. You're done.
So how do we even get to this place of these places?
After having been so in love and so romantic, right?
Is desire reflect that, or if we're not desiring the person anymore, then we start to feel one of those categories, or does that not play in?
That has changed the most in a very, very short amount of time. For most of history, and in still the majority of the world, sex is for procreation. One person in the long haul that is fun.
I worked with a guy many years ago that certainly had a tone of voice issue. It sounded very rude and very disrespectful. Even though he never said anything technically rude, he had the attitude in his voice.
Mark, will you please, this is the crux of the argument. A larger agreement versus a lease. which we've discussed numerous times, and we have to obviously reiterate it.
Yeah. Ask yourself, what does this communicate to the people around me? If I hear someone with a frustrated tone, I'm not assuming, oh, they are frustrated with themselves. If someone's speaking to me in a frustrated tone, I'm assuming they're frustrated with me. Your tone communicate to the people around you. What does it say to them? You want to make sure you're sending off the right nonverbals to accompany your words.
Focus on this. Focus on both. We're doing one thing at a time. Mark, will you please, this is the crux of the argument. A larger agreement versus a lease. What do you think gaslighting is?
Irrelevant to the case.
Yes, exactly.
Upward inflection is used across cultures around dominance. Use it to create a questioning tone. You could even use it assertively to go, hey, I bet you've got a question around that because you're not as intelligent as I am.
Will you please, this is the crux of the argument. A larger agreement versus a lease. Which we've discussed numerous times, and we have to obviously reiterate it.
Yeah, because I'm so stupid.
You're the one that keeps saying it.
Yeah,
Hey, Zach, why don't you sit down, bud? You're kind of close to the edge. I don't want you to fall in. Hey, are you hungry? Have you eaten anything?
I am not really hungry.
Well, maybe you should just have a bite of something for your blood sugar.
You don't want to
You know how you get, buddy. I have an apple.
Hey,
I have some M&Ms. What?
don't do that.
Don't do what?
All right, cool. Now come over here, put your head underwater, I'm going to time you.
What? No, he can't do that. Zach,
No, he can do that. He can do that. He can stand up on the rod. He can hold his breath while he's trying to do the rest. There you go. You better stop calling him a retard.
I've never called anyone that word.
Okay, hold on. Listen, when people are saying he's a retard, really what they're saying is he can't do some shit they can do. So you might not be saying the word retard, all right, I'll give you that, but you damn sure is making him feel retarded. That ain't gonna help his life. Hey, there we go. So you might not be saying the word retard, all right, I'll give you that, but you damn sure is making him feel. So you might not be saying the word retard, all right, I'll give you that, but you damn sure is making him feel. Sure is making him feel. Sure is making him feel. Making him feel.
So stupid.
You're the one that keeps saying it.
Yeah, I'm so stupid.
You're the one that keeps saying it.
These are for the Hamptons. These aren't for camp.
The subtext of everything Hannah said these days was, you fucking idiot.
I wanted corn checks, not flakes.
You fucking idiot.
Okay. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? What are you doing here?
Train crash inquiry.
What do you care? What are you doing here?
How's the train crash inquiry?
What do you care?
I will look it up. What do you mean, did I find anything? You just asked me 2 seconds ago. I just came up here to charge the phone.
Well, again, you heard how stupid he said. Oh, again, why not just move to Zen and we'll clear everything else out? No, but it's a crazy matter.
He's crazy. Okay, he's like mentally fucked up, and it makes him a dick. He right there with the rest of them. He don't care nothing about me either.
Of course, I loved your memoir.
Oh.
I mean, people don't know how damaging verbal abuse is.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
So true. Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, how do you recover from being called stupid your entire life?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if one does recover from that, in fact. Yeah.
What was that other thing he used to call you? Oh, yeah, shit for brains.
That was a good one.
Shit for brains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's fucked.
So how is that my fault if it's not Why your... don't you call and ask... Go call and ask Lena, somebody with a brain.
Shit for brains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's fucked.
Yeah.
Manipulation we see, if your partner tells you that others agree with them that you are bad, like all their friends think you're awful, or your partner tells their friends that you're awful, that's not a good sign.
She's crazy. If you are only getting your inputs from another person, or they're telling you you're stupid, or they're telling you that you're lazy, she's crazy. If you are only getting your inputs from another person, or they're telling you you're stupid, or they're telling you that you're lazy, all that stuff starts to wear on people and they start to escalate. You can see all that language, all that.
where you're rattling over the same things over and over and over and over and over, and you're just feeding each other's problem?
Because relationships, they are actual feedback loops in which we make the other and the other defines us, back and forth. It's this phenomenal dance that we call the more, the more.
They wear you down. And I've seen people get reduced to like their former self is gone.
Years, people are slowly ground down by.
They're not who they used to be. Or where did he go?
It happens between the lines on the page. Very rarely does it become physical. Often it's very subtle, but sustained. And over a period of days, months, sometimes years, people are slowly ground down by this behavior.
It undermines, it's white anting, it just eats a person from the inside out.
What we know is a lot of bad abusive relationships reduces your ability to act because the only input they're getting is from each other. And if I'm being told my blog doesn't matter, or I'm being told I'm stupid.
And over a period of days, months, sometimes years, people are slowly ground down by this.
It undermines, it's white anting, it just eats a person from the inside out.
A lot of bad abusive relationships reduces your ability to act because the only input they're getting is from each other. And if I'm being told my blog doesn't matter, or I'm being told I'm stupid, all that stuff starts to impact how people behave, and it brings down their normal personality.
These kind of people may reach a point that makes them extremely frustrated. This is the wild reaction that we can get out of people who are hyper compliant on a very regular basis and are tired of it. And they get to a point where they say the words, somebody snapped. People use that word. And it's not that they snapped. They felt the desire to no longer be in collapse. And they thought, that is the only way out, is to go to the opposite.
In other words, you would rise to your survival, and we know it sounds strange, and it's why you don't want to talk about it to everyone, because there are so many people that just want to put bad people in bad piles and lock the door and throw away the key and just leave them there.
I think that part of what makes you so interesting is that you have these different aspects to yourself. You are a very likable person, and there's a side of you that becomes unhinged. It's this side that makes you more than what other people want you to be, and it makes you the individual you are, and that's your emotional life. Yes, it's true, you don't always manage your emotional life in a way that's optimal for others. Yeah, exactly. But that doesn't mean you have to always make yourself optimal to others.
What we know is a lot of bad abusive relationships reduces your ability to act because the only input they're getting is from each other. And if I'm being told I'm stupid, and crazy, or they're telling you that you're lazy, all that stuff starts to wear on people, to escalate. You can see all that language, all that, where you're rattling over the same things over and over, impact how people behave. And it brings down their normal personality.
We discussed numerous times, and we have to obviously reiterate it.
Yeah, because I'm so stupid.
We've discussed numerous times. We've discussed numerous times, and we have to obviously reiterate it.
So like their former self is gone. Where did he go? What happened to them? They're not who they used to be.
Heisman says in video shows signs of narcissism that led to an abusive relationship with Gabby, and it's now on display for the world to see.
I said I was seriously going crazy. I needed to get help. I was forgetting things. My mind was going. It was all in my head. I needed to get checked out.
It was awful. Tried to make her feel small.